What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with my MLB Week 13 power rankings. And you can see here the biggest movers are the Rays and the Diamondbacks moving up and down 4 spots. But we got to talk about the stories of the week. Reds calling up prospect Chase Burns, obviously a top pick a few years ago in the draft, and he's finally getting his chance to debut for the Reds in a good time because they need some pitching. Downside, Francisco Alvarez going to AAA. Mets need some reliable catching and hitting from that position. He's just not getting it done right now. And some good catching is Cal Raleigh. Keep on making history. 31 home runs before the break right now for a catcher is an MLB record. I'm sure he probably is going to get a few more before the end of June. Chris Sale to the IL with a rib fracture. Adley Rutschman to the IL with a strained oblique. And then Ron Washington on leave with health concerns. Obviously prayers up for him as we're all rooting for him to get back and hopefully can make a speedy recovery. Mets 1-8 in their last nine. Haven't been playing some good baseball recently. You'll see it reflect in my rankings as well. Then Aaron Judge just doing unearthly things, and he could possibly win that Triple Crown at the end of the year. 30 through 26, no surprises here on who you expect to see in these positions. The Rockies with a winning week, though, going into Washington and taking a series. So that's positive there. But now all these teams have some tough competition this week, especially the A's all on the road against the two of three best teams in the AL. Marlins on the road against the NL West. Same with the Nationals, they're out west. So it's a lot of tough games here for these bottom feeders. 21 through 25, I think there's some teams here that could possibly get hot. I mean, we saw the Twins win 13 in a row. And if they didn't do that, honestly, I don't think they'd even be in this position because they're starting to struggle again. They need some sort of win streak to even get them back kind of irrelevant. Same for the Orioles. They need to get hot quickly before they fade out of the NL East and wild card picture. Angels are hanging around right now. I mean, they're only 2.5 games back from the playoffs, which is pretty good because they had a pretty good week last week, obviously going into New York and winning that series. Now they return home, need to win both those series if they want to keep up in the wild card race. And then the Braves, they're an interesting team to look out for. They're 7 games back in the wild card race, but if you can beat the Mets, teams in your division start chipping away at it. This Braves team, I can't count them out until the fat lady is singing. And it's not even the All-Star break yet. Who knows? They could go 7-0 this week against divisional opponents. Probably won't. But if they do, I mean, they're 42 and 41, if that best case scenario. And then everyone's going to be talking about the Braves probably only being like 4 games back. So there's definitely some hope there for the Braves, but they just need to find their groove and really get it going before it's too late. Same for the Pirates. They're just a team that is fortunate enough to be on this slide with some of those other teams. 16 through 20. Now, this is the wild card slide. I mean, the Diamondbacks are 3.5 out, but those four AL teams here, you can see it. So right now, the Mariners hold the last spot in the wild card. They're tied with the Guardians, obviously. You can see their record. Then the Red Sox and Royals, or sorry, the Red Sox are a half game back. And then the Royals are 2 games back. The Rangers and Twins and Angels, as I mentioned before, are 2.5 back. So the AL, it's a big week for them. Obviously, the Mariners play Minnesota and Texas, two teams that are right under them. Royals play a surging Tampa team that's in the wild card right now, the number one wild card. And then, like I said, Texas, Baltimore and then Seattle, big week for them. So there could be a lot of shakeup in the wild card this week. But team we're not talking about yet is the Diamondbacks, and they're just kind of floating around, kind of like they do most of the year. They will probably get a week or two where they're on fire, and hopefully that can be enough to propel them into the last wild card spot. Now, 11 through 15 are those fringe teams that some are in the playoffs, some aren't, some are just on the outside. The Blue Jays are in. Like I said, the Red Sox are half a game out on the AL side. The NL side, the Giants are the number 2 wild card. The Brewers are the number 3 wild card. Then the Reds are only 3 games back. So all these teams are relatively close. I just decided to move the Giants up just because I think once they traded for Devers, their team gets better. So that's why I'm moving them up, even with a 3-3 week. Now the Brewers, you can see they're going 4-1, swept Minnesota in their own ballpark. Didn't beat the Reds in the series, or sorry, didn't beat the Cubs in the series because one game got rained out, but Brewers played them well. So I expect the Brewers to keep it rolling here. Probably go 4-2, 5-1 this week. Just keep climbing up the rankings and tallying those wins. 6 through 10, the Mets fall out of my top five because, like I said, they're 1-8 in their last nine, and they played some decent teams this week, and they just didn't show up. They get Atlanta again, and if they can hopefully scrap two across to end the skid here, I think that'd be a good start for them as they can definitely go into Pittsburgh and sweep that series. The Yankees are kind of coasting right now. They get the series win against Baltimore, but lost at home to the Angels. They go to Cincinnati, which I think could be a tough series there for the Yankees, but Judge could hit probably 4 or 5 home runs. The Padres, 3-4, they just can't seem to beat the Dodgers in LA. And obviously all the tension there between Tatis, the managers, Ohtani. So good drama in the NL West for sure. Cubs drop a spot. I think this team's kind of reeling a little bit. They had a big lead, obviously, in the NL Central, but the Brewers are slowly catching up, and I think that could be something to watch for here before the All-Star break because they're only 3.5 above the Brewers, 4.5 above the Cardinals, and 6.5 against the Reds. Now, sounds like a lot, but one bad week again, like the Cubs, let's say they get swept in St. Louis. Well, St. Louis is only half a game back then, if that's the case. So the Cubs, I think they really gotta not step it up, but play just a little bit better than they have been playing because it's just been kind of mediocre. And the Cardinals obviously had one bad week where they just kind of lost it, but they responded well with an easier week going into Chicago, getting that sweep like they needed to do, then beating the Reds at home. And like I said, Cardinals, big week for them. Two playoff teams more than likely coming in or going who they are playing this week. So it's a lot of good baseball here for these 6 through 10, but 1 through 5. Now, I'm sure it's definitely a hot take to put the Rays here in five, but this team's slowly putting together a solid season. Their pitching has slowly came together. I know on paper it doesn't look good, but you can tell if you watch some games, as I figured out watching them play the Tigers, that this Rays team is legit and they can find ways to win ball games. I mean, if you can beat the Tigers pretty single-handedly, 2 out of the 3, they weren't even really that much of games. It shows a lot. And now they go into Kansas City and Baltimore. I definitely can think they'll take the Baltimore series. Kansas City, I could see them either going 2-1 or 1-2. But the Rays are a team to look out for. And I say that because they're hitting really good right now. And like I said, if their pitching can just figure it out and be more consistent, then this race team, I wouldn't be shocked if they're playing for the AL East when it's all said and done at the end of the year. Astros at 4, stay put. Tough week at home this week. They get the Phillies and the Cubs coming in. It's a big week for them. If they can continue to keep that AL West lead over the Mariners, it's 5 games. I expect them to do so this week. Tigers, they go 3-3. Wasn't the best week, but right now it's 8.5 games over Cleveland. I think they can win both of these series pretty easily, be the first team to 50 wins. And the Phillies. This team is probably my NL favorite right now because their pitching has been, I don't want to say really bad, but Nola's on the shelf. Luzardo finally had another just great game against the Mets on Sunday Night Baseball, which seemed like it was missing for the last month. And the bullpen's kind of shaky at times, but if the Phillies can figure out pitching to be 75% consistent, I think they can beat the Dodgers this year in a 7 game series if it came down to it in the playoffs. Now, the Dodgers, though, other side of that, they've been there. They just somehow find ways to win ball games. You saw that against the Padres, against the Nationals. They find ways to win, and that's why they are at number one in my rankings. And I expect them to stay there, honestly, at this point next week because 3 in Colorado should be 3 wins. Should probably beat Kansas City, at least 2 out of the 3. So I would be kind of disappointed if the Dodgers don't go 5-1 this week. But that's going to be it for my Week 13 power rankings. Come back next week to see where your favorite team ranks.